Hey everybody, welcome to Game Breaking News with me, Jeff Grubb, your host. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking Switch 2 is as expensive as it is. It's going to be a good one because we have Tamoor Hussain on the show. Tam, how are you doing?
I am playing Street Fighter 3 Third Strike in the palm of my hand.
Look at that, man.
You know what? I am loving it. I'm not going to play as Oro. Fuck Oro.
No.
There we go.
Always
back.
can. Always can.
I'm doing good. How are you, Jeffy Grubb?
I'm doing pretty good. Happy to have you here on the show again. Back, returning champion. It's been an eventful handful of weeks, kind of nonstop. Let's get.
How do you feel about tariffs?
I had feelings originally. Now I really love them. Now that I have so much more exposure. Yeah, it's been, like I said, nonstop. Ready for the weekend though. In the meantime, we got some dregs. We got some real news as well. We'll get into all of it here pretty soon. But I'm wondering, at this point, now that we could talk about it, how everyone is getting on with Blueprints. Because I don't expect, and I don't know how you feel, but I don't expect everyone to love it the way I do. And so I'm like, I want to hear all the different feelings about it. How are you into it?
Blueprints? I think I've played like 10 hours now. Shit is whack as fuck, man. I'm bored as hell. I am so bored out of my mind.
Let's go, Tim! Yeah! I'm not surprised. I think there's going to be a lot of people who feel that way. That's why I'm like really happy it's just on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus Extra. Because I think there's some people who aren't going to jive with it.
I understand it. I understand why people can like it, and I get where I think I'm not a huge fan of homework games anymore.
Sure.
Where it's like you got to spend, and also like the layer stuff of it is not great. Like I reached the antechamber and I was like, oh, something cool is gonna happen, and nothing happened. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, there's a lot more before you can actually go in there. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and like I get it. Like it's good, but like I don't know. I feel like I need more to my games to excite me than I feel like I'm an old man reading a newspaper, like a broadsheet newspaper when I play that game.
Yeah.
Which is not the vibe that I want to be going for right now, you know. I'm trying to get high off LSD and play, you know.
Of course. Yeah. No, that's why I asked. I figured like this is not giving you the high off LSD that you crave from your video
actually
games.
doing the LSD, but
never mind.
That's
just actual drugs. Absolutely.
There's not a single thing in that game that I can uppercut or parry, and I think it is trash if you know how those.
I think if that main gameplay is not sparking you, it's not going to work. I think it
does not spark joy. It sparks,
not spark joy.
It sparks yawning.
Well, I'm glad that I could get your opinion on it finally. Not surprised, like I said. I'm like I think people are gonna go in there and be like, I'm just not in the mood for this, and that's gonna be a lot of people, I think. But boy, still hitting hard for me. I am like 50 layers deeper than I ever thought this game had, and uncovering that stuff has been a fun process for me. But it's
I am gonna carry on playing it to get to that stage. I think, and then if I hit a point where I'm like, it does something, and I'm like, oh, I see. I've had a few of those, I think, but I haven't had one where I've been like, oh, this was your big move. This was your your prestige, and it didn't work on me, so I'm out of here.
Yes, I think the prestige is probably still to come, but I don't know. I don't expect it to win you over. That's where I'm at with that, and that's fine. For sure though. But let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the show with Switch 2 to be sold at a loss due to higher production costs, analyst says. This is from Eddie McHugh at GameSpot, and, it's the story of the last 2 weeks. Really, the last week, it's still only kind of been around 10 days since the Switch 2 got announced, and boy, it feels a lot longer. Nintendo, which has a history of selling its consoles at a profit when its competitors may not, is expected to sell every Switch 2 console at launch for a loss. That's the belief of one analyst who estimated that the total bill of material costs for the Switch 2 to be $400. The system launches in June, priced at $450 US. And we'll just pause there. Well, 450 is more than 400, right? But that's just the cost of goods. It actually doesn't account for assembling it or shipping it or packaging it. Packaging materials alone can cost $15 to $30. So right there, you're already adding a ton to your costs. So $400, that's why they're going to go $450 and try to get as much as they can. But even in that situation, even in a perfect environment where there weren't tariffs, they probably were going to be selling this thing at a little bit of a loss. Speaking to Bloomberg, Tokyo Securities analyst Hideki Yasuda made this claim and said the loss is something Nintendo would be able to absorb. Yasuda previously said the Switch 2's new chipset alone might cost as much as $150, which compares to $80 a unit for the original Switch. This is I think something that just sounds like right to me. At a certain point, I was just operating under the assumption this thing probably costs about as much to make as all of the handheld PCs we've gotten over the last couple of years. Obviously there are some higher end ones that probably, especially ones that have huge 1 terabyte SSDs in them, things like that would drive up the cost. This doesn't have that 256 gigabytes of fast flash memory, but it's still not an SSD. Still, though, I think the comparison point here was always the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck. And so $450 kind of always sat, I felt like on the high end, but it sat right with me mostly. Obviously, the game price is a whole other conversation. But do you think people are starting to become more accepting of this price? Or is it still just like, no, I remember what the Switch 1 costed, or it was priced at for me, and this is way more?
I don't know if they're accepting, but I think most people will begrudgingly buy one, and that's usually how it always goes.
Yeah.
From my time in retail, I had people coming in when the Wii was very difficult to get, and they did not care how much the price was. Their kid or their grandkid wanted that thing, and if you were in there trying to get a Wii at that time, it meant that you were willing to pay whatever it took to get it. And I think we'll have the element of that with the Switch 2, where some people are going to be like, it is what it is. I'm experienced with this world, and I know that Nintendo is not going to change anything, so I can bitch and moan as much as I want. It's not going to change anything, really. Or you've got the funds and the need to just satiate whoever it is that you're trying to buy it for, and you don't really care about the price. Price is no option. I think there's definitely going to be people who pick it up later on down the line. I don't think the price is going to change. I think the only thing that really changes and spurs new purchases in the Nintendo world for consoles especially is what kind of bundle is on offer. So that's usually where the spikes, when I was working in retail, and that's where usually where the interest spikes would happen. When there was a new game and people were looking for a console at the same time, they would try and find the bundle that had that game in it. So I imagine it's going to do fine because of the Mario Kart bundle. And then I think it'll probably taper off a little bit, but it'll still be popular because everyone wants a hot new Nintendo thing. And then the next time when Yonky Dong comes out, that'll be the next time it goes up. And then Metroid will go up and that kind of stuff. So I think long and short of it is people are going to accept it regardless. They're going to be upset about it for sure. I think the real emotion will come once people have purchased it and they start making judgments and vocalizing whether they're getting their money's worth out of it.
Yeah, good point.
I think that's where the real battle is going to be, because if it goes anywhere, and if it goes the way that Nintendo has traditionally done, we're going to get a bunch of third-party titles that some of them will play fine. A lot of them will be inferior versions. Perhaps the gap between it playing how it plays on the Switch 2 and how it plays on the Steam Deck and a normal other console is smaller now. Nevertheless, I think people are going to be like, okay, where is the Nintendo games? Those will come in a drip feed, and those will be what people really build their value around. For me, I'm in that position where it's like, I am not playing Cyberpunk on that game, on that console. It's not happening.
Yeah.
I played Witcher 3 on the Switch, and let me tell you, that was poop from a butt. And I stopped after literally 15 minutes. I was like, I'm out of here. This is not the way to play it.
Yeah.
I'm buying that thing for, at least to begin with, Metroid Prime only. So for me, I'm going in there being with the understanding that I will play Metroid Prime, Donkey Kong, and Mario Kart. and then I have to accept that if there's not a game that I enjoy from that point on ever again, it's just the way it's got to be. Like that is what I'm going in for. And it was similar with the Switch. Like I play my Switch, but there's nothing in there that is like exciting to me. And there are people who have it as their main console.
Oh, for
but like
sure.
I played Zelda, I played Mario, I played Mario Kart. And then after that I was like, see ya. That's about it.
Yeah, I think your sort of like personal anecdote there of like how you feel about the thing. Everyone's going to have their own variation on that, and they're going to have to work their way through the price one way or the other, or for or against. If they tell themselves that story of like, I'm going to get this thing, and am I really just going to get Mario Kart and maybe Donkey Kong in the first couple of months? Is that enough for me to feel good about this? And I think there's going to be a lot of people who will say no, but that's not really the question Nintendo's asking. They're asking, is this price at a point where, it will not hurt demand? Because we know supply is going to be limited, because it just always is at the beginning of a launch. But are we going to sell through that? Will there be enough demand at $450 and then $500 bundled with Mario Kart to sell out what we can supply? And the answer is almost certainly yes.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Like there's the demand is going to be there, and the lack of supply will feed that demand to be even higher. I think like we're a very limited kind of set of people who will be like, oh, it's too expensive for us and this and that. But you get parents out there, like I'm sure you can attest to as well. Like when that kid asks enough times and is annoying enough, and like you see them around their friends and they're the only one that don't have the thing that they're all playing on, at a certain point, like the sense goes out the window and you're like, I just need to get this kid this thing, man, for whatever reason. And I feel like a lot of that, especially around Christmas time, like it's hard to say no at Christmas time for kids as well. And it's like, this will be the only thing you get for the next year. Are you okay with that? Like all of that is going to happen. So the demand is going to be there. The issue is going to be the supply. And usually, again, going back to my Wii and even somewhat Wii U, PlayStation 3 days as well, the longer the supply is limited, the more intense the demand becomes. So I expect like the Switch 2 demand is going to go for a bunch of months, maybe even halfway into next year. And I think that people are going to be surprised to find that the $500 price tag is going to be, the discussion around that is going to fade away fairly quickly.
Yep, I think, and then the other conversation is the game prices. And again, we can explain this from Nintendo's point of view of just since 2017, purchasing power has gone down. So if you convert $80 in 2025 to how much that would have had been in purchasing power back in 2017, it is equivalent to $61.50. And so it's like they are keeping up with inflation. No one wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I don't care. That's Nintendo's problem. But that from their point of view, they're like, we're not really raising the price. We have if you look at how they've priced games from their last several decades of consoles, it's always been right at this level, the equivalent of what would be $60 in 2017, essentially. So, but that's going to add up quick for all of us who have not seen meaningful wage increases. And I think that's where this becomes more of a problem. But that's like, it is a different problem, right, than getting people to buy the console. Getting people to buy the console out of the gate, you do bundle in with Mario Kart at a discount, and that sort of helps people get over the hump. And then once you own the console, I do think it's like an easier story for them to tell of, well, you already own this thing. You've already spent, upwards of $500 on this machine. Are you really not going to buy more games for it just because it's $10 more than, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom? And I think most people then at that point will also break through that barrier, but not as many. I think there are going to be a lot of people who are going to be like, I am skipping more games than I would like because it's now $80. And that's going to be Nintendo's problem from that point going forward.
Yeah, I think the demand for games is going to be much. I think demand for games from an anecdotal perspective is going to be, people want, the desire for games will be there. The actual the execution on it and how many games are being sold or actively being purchased by consumers, I think that's going to drop. I don't think it's going to be precipitous, but I think it's going to be enough for it to be an issue. However, I think what's likely to happen is the console is likely to get the free-to-play games that, fuel and satiate, again, people, a lot of the audience these days. Like if they get once that Fortnite is on that thing, like I think that's a lot of people. Like there's a generation of people that only play Fortnite, right? Like that is going to be a big deal for them. Like, and I don't know, Warzone will inevitably probably make it there because it can run that now. And all these like free to play games that are part of the gaming culture in a way that it wasn't for us when we were coming up and trying to convince people into buying us a SNES or a Mega Drive or whatever it may be, PlayStation. Those are kind of going to be a much bigger factor in the kind of landscape of gaming purchases. I am interested in the impact because I believe that it's a significant increase in game pricing that is gonna it's gonna catch a lot of people off guard, especially if they're not paying attention to the day-to-day of like, oh, Nintendo is talking about this and we saw this coming months ago. No, some people are gonna go into a store and see, oh my God, why is this $80? Because they don't read RSS feeds or listen to podcasts.
And they're not going to want to hear. They're not going to want to hear the excuses of inflation.
No,
that would not. That has nothing to do with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I do wonder the impact this could potentially have on the secondhand and pre-owned market, which has taken a bit of a hit in the digital age. Kind of like it dropped down, and this could be a moment where there's some life breathed back into that kind of that industry. And for better or for worse, like ideally it would mean that, you know, people are selling games to each other in a more reasonable way. There's also going to be the GameStops of the world that are going to give you like peanuts for your game and then sell them for like $1 cheaper than the other one.
For how much longer, right?
If you see that shit happening, do not engage. You're better off like just trying to find a game online on
get our Discord server. There's probably a game swap channel in there or something like that.
Yeah, let's do it. We should do that. We should make the Switch 2 games are too expensive. Swap here. Everyone is trusted. Kind of vibe, which will be fun. But yeah, I think there's going to be knock-on effects. I'm interested in seeing the knock-on economic effects of Switch games skyrocketing in this way. Because I definitely think there's going to be some. I just don't know where it's going to happen. On the one hand, it could be the pre-owned market becomes a bit more vibrant again. On the other hand, it could be like it's severe enough that, and this will be like wild if it happens, and I don't think so. The feedback or the backlash or the economic effect of that is severe enough that Nintendo rethinks how it does this. And perhaps they don't come back with we're cutting the cost of all games, but maybe they start doing like Switch 2 Essentials, like, the PlayStation Classic style thing where it's like, it's the same game. It's been re-released in a new cover and they've just made it cheaper.
Yeah. They did not do that on the Switch. They completely did not do that on the Switch.
No. And that was because the Switch games were continuously selling reasonably well, enough in the margins they needed were taken care of.
Sometimes extremely well.
However, with games at $80, if they look at the graphs and they're like, oh shit, we are not hitting the numbers that we need to get back Nintendo Selects or whatever it was called back then, or, Nintendo Recommends, whatever it may be. And also, like, I think that the ace in the hole that they have is being able to significantly reduce the price of the digital games, which I think is more likely to happen before they start cutting the price of the physical games. I think that if Nintendo wants to come into the world of 2025, they would start putting their games on discount on their digital stores, because the way they do it now is just like, I don't even think about buying games on their digital stores because I know I'm going to be paying full price for it. Unless it's a third party game, I'm just like, I'm not even going to, if someone says to me, should I buy a digital version of Mario Kart? I'm just like, don't do it, man. You're going to pay the same price as normal and you'll have a digital thing. You'll piss you off. And the experience of you buying that thing is going to be like pulling teeth. Like, don't do it.
That's true. I think you're right, and I think that when we kind of get a year from now, we'll see that how we'll probably be able to like look back and be like, oh, okay, this is interesting. When we look at the timeline, here are all the ways Nintendo had to get creative to sort of make people feel good about spending a little bit of extra money, and I think they're going to have to. I think you're right that it won't come in the form of price cuts, prolonged price cuts for Mario Kart World or something like that, but more frequent sales. Bundles like the voucher thing could come back for the Switch 2, and it still exists for Switch 1 games, but it could get introduced for Switch 2, and maybe it's got better pricing than we're expecting. Like it's $100 right now on Switch 1 for 2 games. So the games are $60. You get, you save $20. Maybe doing it this way, it saves you as much as like $40, $45, something like that, where it's like, oh, that feels pretty good. I can make that make sense. But right now sitting here, it just feels like Nintendo's going to see what they can get away with. And unless there's significant, like a significant hit to like the sales graph for a Mario Kart that Nintendo, like that really scares Nintendo, they probably won't back off very much.
Yeah.
So we'll have to.
And you're right. It has to be like the impact has to be on a Mario Kart or an Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Or maybe a Smash Brothers or something like that. Yep. That's where they're going to be like, I wonder if they think about starting to do a more robust, meaningful version of digital game rentals, because that could be a way to kind of like eat their cake and eat and have the cake and eat it too. Where it's like, oh, we're gonna charge you cheaper to have this game, but you only got it for a week. See ya. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, if I want to play Mario Kart for this week, I can pay $15, $20. That could be an avenue they take, and it's just annoying enough that they'll look at that and be like, oh, hell yeah, that's awesome, let's do that. And it'll be busted as hell, but they'll be like, here you go, do it.
All right, let's keep going here. I did clump all the Nintendo news together at the top of the show once again. So here we are. This is more like, hey, just a reminder that something that was already existing here. But Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order invitations from My Nintendo store may begin rolling out on the 8th of May. Basically, IGN had a story, I think it was this morning, being like, oh, we know when the pre-orders are happening now. It's May 8th. And that's actually just for the My Nintendo store. And they said that at the time of the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. They said, hey, those pre-orders will begin on May 8th, like way back when. So this is nothing new, but everyone's like waiting for information from Nintendo about when they're going to reintroduce pre-orders to the United States and Canada for retailers. And I think IGN just saw this and took it to mean, oh, okay, this is when that's starting. That is separate from whatever's going to happen with retailers. So that's just clearing the air. That's what they always said. Nothing has changed there. And in fact, apparently that never even got delayed because it's still up on their website. And I think they would take that down if they weren't going to stick to that. But that does bring us back to the $1 million question of the moment, Tam. When do they reintroduce pre-orders in the United States? I'm like kind of expecting them to say something today still, but I don't know. Maybe they don't. It's still so confusing out there.
No, I think if I was in their position, which God help me, I hope I never am, I think the smart thing would do, I think they're looking at the American market right now and looking at what's going on and being like, this Trump guy has no fucking clue what he's doing. He seems to be just like picking his boogers and eating them and just like doing whatever until he's like just backtracking on everything.
Hey, all the booger eaters I know 2 of them, they are much more well put together than Donald Trump.
Than that guy, yeah. He's looking great. He might be cooked soon, I saw him yesterday. I was like, oh man, is he okay?
I mean, I heard him talking too, and I definitely got that sense as well, where he's just like, he seems beaten up. And I think it was really the Bond news. I think really someone probably sat down and explained it to him, and I think mostly it just confused him, and so he just felt terrible afterward.
Yeah, I think also like the Hollywood movie stuff is also going to be a major issue for them. Like I think like he's now got all the things that people that he thinks are cool coming up to him being like, what you doing? You're killing our movies.
That's a good point. That he's obsessed with
I imagine they're going to wait until they feel like there's some actual like settlement in the economic kind of upheaval that is happening right now, because they're very much Sideshow Bob in a field of rakes right now, potentially, where they can't really, everywhere they turn, they're going to get hit by one of them in the face. So they need to just stay put for now and see like when he's done being a moron, that's when they're going to be like, okay, we can make our move now. That could be a month from now. It could be a few weeks from now. Who knows? But I think they very much are trying not to jump the gun, as it were, which is a smart way to approach it. And it's frustrating for us as people who want to buy that thing and lock in our pre-orders and stuff. But yeah, I think it'll be a while yet.
I think the only trouble there, Tam, is, they can wait a little bit longer, but he could then swing back the other way. I really, they don't have much of a choice here. I think they probably have to like wait for the dust to settle, but maybe only after a couple of days of settlement, they have to sort of just say something. Because, if they wait a couple of weeks, we are getting closer every day to June 5th. That's the release date. That's, under 2 months away. But every other country's pre-orders have happened except for Canada. And so they want to get those numbers in there so they know what to do with shipments. Although it does seem like, yesterday we talked about they're just shipping every Switch 2 they make in Vietnam to the United States. That's probably their immediate answer of let's get in everything we can at 10% tariffs. That's going to be sort of the lowest fee we can pay. And then we'll just figure it out from there once, as you said, everything is settled. Do you think I don't know how this plays out, but do you think what they are hoping for is the dust settles on the tariff stuff and then he gets distracted by something else, and once he starts running in that direction and chasing that truck as a mindless dog, they can go, okay, his mind is off tariffs for now, so maybe that will keep him distracted for long enough that he'll just forget he was ever doing that, and we can maybe make a decision at that point.
I don't know if they're counting on him forgetting.
I know.
I think what they're counting on him doing is, or what they're counting on happening is him believing that the kind of PR juice that he can get out of tariffs has run out.
Right.
And now he needs to move to it. Because he's not really doing anything. He's just trying to affect changes and then giving himself little trophies to say, look what I did.
Right.
So that when he's done, people can look at a list of shit that he did, and people are stupid enough to try and argue in favor of that stuff because, they're brainwashed as a cult at this point.
Uh-huh.
So I think he's going to get to the point where he's like, all right, I got no more ability to, milk this for some positive PR, or it doesn't make me feel like I'm affecting the world in any meaningful way now. Or, the people who, the billionaires that want to crash the market and buy up the things that they want to buy up are done, and he's moved on to something else. So I expect they'll wait, and and once he is off doing other things, he's terrorizing some other crucial part of the world industry, that's when they're going to be like, okay, cool.
Yep, that's a good point. I think maybe they're waiting for a sort of union of these countries coming together and finding a way to convince Trump that he has won and can declare victory. And then you're right, he'll want to move on at that point. And, maybe that's happening within his own team. His own team is completely incompetent, but they at least recognize that this hasn't worked. And they know that he just wants to declare victory. So maybe that's what they're working toward. And, at that moment, I think they probably can feel a little bit safer. But you're right. For now, it is so dangerous to make any sort of declaration because you don't want to be held to what you say now if the environment changes in a 180-degree direction in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
All right. Nintendo Switch Online is adding 3 Sega Genesis classics. This is from Kevin Knezevik. Is that how you say that? You know how to say that? Knezevik?
Yeah. Knezevik, I believe it is.
Knezevik. Thank you very much. This is.
I've known Kevin for so many years, and I have managed him as well, and the amount of times I've got his name wrong to his face is embarrassing.
Well, we're sorry, Kevin, but over at
Knezevik.
There we go. That looks right. Knezevik over at GameSpot. He says Nintendo has added a new batch of classic games for Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack subscribers. 3 more Sega Genesis titles are now available to play through the service: Streets of Rage, Super Thunderblade, and eSWAT City Under Siege. This is Streets of Rage 1. That's still a pretty good game. It's no Streets of Rage 2, but I like it quite a bit.
You know what?
What's that?
I'm going to be playing Streets of Rage on this bad boy.
Yeah, right.
I'm paying you your right mind.
I get excited about this all the time, and then I always end up playing these games on one of those other devices that I have. Which, hey, yeah. Oh, man, that's the, you said the Miiu handheld one.
Yeah, this is the Miiu Flip.
Right.
Yeah, the Miiu Flip. It's smaller than the Ambernic RG XX, whatever it's called, which is also the Game Boy SP style one. But it's a little more powerful, and it's got the little nubs.
Yep.
So if you want to chuck some you can illegal PlayStation games on there,
right? Actually, run N64 on that thing, and it makes a little bit of sense. Yeah. There you go. Anyway, yep. That's mostly notable because this is another batch of Genesis games. They did a batch about 5 months ago, back in November. Shout out to Marino for reminding me of that. And that was the first drop for Genesis on NSO in quite some time. So it's oh, okay, Sega and Nintendo still are making deals to add stuff to the Sega stuff here. I get my hopes up, Tam, that maybe on Switch 2 they could introduce a Sega Saturn console to NSO at some point. Yeah, you're shaking your head. You don't think so? I'm definitely it's definitely hopium on my side. So yeah, tell me why I'm wrong.
It's massive hopium. Yeah, I don't think so. I also don't think that. I think mainly because like there's not enough of a market of people who are gonna be like, oh yes, finally Saturn games, other than like us weirdos like that are into it. Like the average person who's got a Nintendo Switch probably doesn't even know that Sega made consoles at one point.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're especially Saturn. Like that's a forgotten console at this point. I mean, I know that's weird for me to say to kinds of people listening to this show, but you're right. That's just not something like Dreamcast gets brought up all the time. Sure. Genesis, obviously. Saturn is, almost as forgotten as like a 32X. Not quite that bad, but yeah, it's on that level almost.
Sadly.
Well, then how about Dreamcast then?
I think Dreamcast is a decent bet. The issue with Dreamcast is the Dreamcast games that matter, I think, have come out in other places.
That's true.
To a degree, like I guess like Shenmue has been re-released, right? Like,
yeah, can you buy Shenmue and like Skies of Arcadia on the Switch? I can't remember.
Maybe Arcadia is not the one that you can buy. Like, I mean, like Power Stone is coming out very soon.
That's true. Good point. Yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. Like the Street Fighter games, Third Strike is available everywhere pretty much. Like Daytona, I don't know who wants to play Daytona this day and age on their Switch. Like a few of us might be up for that, but yeah, I can't. Ready to Rumble.
Yep. I'm still gonna. I think there's a chance that something happens with Sega, but it's pretty low. And I think, mostly just because Nintendo's gonna want to slowly increase the sort of appeal of Nintendo Switch Online over time, and they're only going to be able to do so much with their own stuff at a certain point. And adding like a Tetris 99 like game, they do that every once in a while, but that doesn't seem like their go-to move. And they seem to have a good relationship with Sega, so maybe something does happen there. But I think it's a small chance, like I said. Much more likely that it won't happen. All right, let's see here. Let's hit this last Nintendo story. Nintendo finally answers the question of why it doesn't use analog triggers on the Nintendo Switch 2 or why it didn't use it on the Switch 1 either. This is from Alberto Garrido at Game Reactor. One of the most talked about issues in the Nintendo Switch's full reveal in terms of its design decisions has been the absence of analog triggers and buttons on the Joy-Con and also on the console's Pro Controller. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about this except for me, maybe once.
Yeah, who's talking about this?
I don't think many people are actually talking about this, but I do care about it. Switch 2's lead designer Koichi Kawamoto and Tetsuya Sasaki, producer and technical director respectively, addressed this and other questions about the console's design and ecosystem during the post-event press conference, which VentureBeat's GamesBeat has transcribed in full. On the subject of analog triggers, Kawamoto noted that there were many developers who insisted on them, but that the balance of positives and negatives ultimately decided them in favor of digital triggers. Here's the quote. In terms of analog buttons on the shoulders, there are positives, but also negatives. You lose a little bit of instancy when they're analog. We considered it and decided that instant input would be a better option. That's why we decided to move forward with this decision. So it's just about that thing that, like, I've heard people mention before. I think Sean's even said, like, he doesn't really like analog shoulder triggers because he does want it to instantly click in place. And I get that. That's true. There are maybe solutions to that. And then there are going to be games on like GameCube's Nintendo Switch Online that are going to feel a little bit weird because you don't have analog triggers. And I like racing games with analog triggers, like to kind of feather things. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't that much of a problem on Switch 1. Yeah. And now they're kind of keeping the same exact control scheme that they had with the Switch 1 on the Switch 2. So I'm not surprised, just maybe a little annoyed. But did this sound right to you? Do you like the instant press of a shoulder trigger more than the trigger?
I like the gradual press. It feels good when you do. Also, like I can't think of many games that they would implement that in. And at a certain point, I'm okay with Nintendo not distracting themselves with too much.
True.
Because I feel like they are liable to start like getting goofy with stuff and making dumb shit that no one actually cares about. It's like we could have like the analog style, and then before you know it, we've got like an entire game being built around it, squeezing a trigger slowly, and we're like, we didn't want this, man. We just wanted to be able to like carefully shoot in a first-person shooter or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. Yeah.
In my head, like GameCube was the first one with analog triggers, but I think I think the PlayStation 2 had analog buttons, but it was like how hard you pressed it is how they measured it, so it just didn't feel exactly the same. But I kind of can't keep it all straight.
The button down on Metal Gear Solid 2 to aim in first person, and then if you slowly let go, you would holster your gun without shooting.
Right.
Which was, I remember doing that and being like, "This is the best games will ever be. They're never getting better than this."
And you were right.
Never ever, and I was correct. No one knows about it.
Oh well, it's a shame, but that means when they put a Trials game on Switch 2, I'm just not going to be able to play it there. I'll have to play it somewhere else. Oh well. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, plenty more to talk about. We got a poll question we got to get to, all that and more. Me and Tam will be back right after this. All right, we're back into it. I almost forgot that I'm running the show today, so I almost just let us sitting there until it faded out, Tam, and then nothing happened. Then I pressed the button pretty late. But hey, we're back, and we're back into it. With Minecraft player numbers they leaped by over 30% in line with the Minecraft movie premiere. This is from Ben Lyons at Game Reactor. It's a pretty common understanding that when a video game adaptation arrives, be it a movie or a big television series, it typically has an impact on the game it's based on. We saw that with Sonic Cross Shadow Generations getting a player boost when Sonic the Hedgehog 3 premiered, and now we're seeing the same happen again with Minecraft. As per the game business, it's noted that the Minecraft player figures have leaped by around 30% during a Minecraft movie premiere period. I hate that. I hate what's called a Minecraft movie.
Yeah.
But it jumped because the movie came out. This synergy, that the corporations love, has worked repeatedly now. And this is a reason I think we're just going to keep seeing more and more video game movies, because it doesn't work in every situation, right? I think Borderlands, being a terrible movie, obviously that didn't help. But we've also seen some bad video game movies help boost player numbers. That in that situation, it just was such a train wreck, it didn't. But if a movie's like decent to just kind of like entertaining just for kids in the way the Minecraft movie sounds to be, seems like it's getting the job done. And the job specifically is raising the awareness of the brand, getting people to care about it again, and getting people playing it again. So I think it's going to be the kind of thing that these companies are looking to make deals to get done repeatedly in the future.
Is that any different from what it used to be? Like it is the same, right? Like that was always the intent behind these movies,
right? But I don't think I don't think it actually worked until was it a Netflix show? One of the Netflix shows really popped off, and I'm trying to remember what game it was, where it's like this made a huge difference. And
it was a Cyberpunk
or Witcher. It was Witcher actually.
Witcher. Yeah.
Witcher's first like the best year outside of its launch year was the year that the TV show premiered. And then since then, we've seen it repeatedly hit where a big video game property
was big. Cyberpunk.
Yes, exactly. And the Fallout show, same like that. Before, The Witcher on Netflix, it's like, they had tried to do this and it never really took. But it just seems like maybe the audiences have aligned in such a way that the primary people consuming streaming media and movies are of an age of they also very likely play video games, or at least a certain portion of them do. And it's paying off now.
I also feel like the quality of the tie-ins are much better these days. Like Edge Runners was excellent. Season 1 of Witcher was, some people liked it. And like Castlevania's been great. Like I really like Devil May Cry, and I have no intention to watch Minecraft, but I hear the kids that like Minecraft like it. I've also seen some TikToks of people watching it in the theater.
Of course.
And it looks like hell on earth.
I haven't seen any of these.
I saw some stuff.
Explain what's happening.
Like, the stuff I saw felt like just illegal, like straight up illegal. Where like people were like standing on each other's shoulders and screaming and throwing stuff, and at one point a chicken was involved, and an actual chicken appeared.
A shoot chicken.
A shoot chicken appeared, and I was like, I would murder every single person in this screening if I was there. It was like food being thrown, people just like screaming nonstop. And also I think the movie is like, it's just a series of Minecraft references.
Yeah, in the way that's what Jack Black's character does. Jack Black just shows up and says, that's a creeper.
Yeah, he says creeper, and then like everyone starts screaming, and it's just like, oh my god, this is crazy. I don't understand, but like, I don't know, it seems to be working. I think that the idea is I think what people are learning, or what the Hollywood industry is learning, is that you should take the games that are targeted at young people, because then you don't have to be particularly sophisticated in how you execute on that stuff. Because for us, like, we go watch a Minecraft movie. If it sucks, unless you're Mitch Minotti, you come out and you're like, yeah, whatever. Well, he's probably crying because it sucks or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what. I don't know what babies like him do anymore, right?
They be babies about it. You're right. You got it.
Yeah. Whereas we just move on with our lives. We'd be like, all right, I don't really give a shit about that. If I want to play Minecraft, I go play Minecraft. I don't care. But like back in the day, it feels like, oh, Silent Hill came out, or like Resident Evil came out, and the Resident Evil movie sucks. We'd be like, pitchforks. We're going to Japan. We're going to poke Capcom execs in the ass, like, to make this better. Like, I think they've realized, oh, let's focus on the kids, adapt the things that they like. Maybe we can throw in a few things for the adults who might be like, I know that one. But for the most part, you just focus on kids, and the quality bar doesn't have to be super high. Based on what I've seen of that Minecraft movie, it looks like it will make me want to video game myself, and I'm not going to be watching it because of that.
Sure.
But I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a, I don't know, Fall Guys movie, and it's just those bean fucking things just falling off platforms for about an hour and a half, and everyone going, haha, it's great, yeah, great, whatever. A Fortnite movie is inevitable.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's just going to be like a series of dances and chugs being used or whatever it may be.
Who stars in the Fortnite movie?
Jack Black as Fortnite. Jack Black as the Ring.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you. If I was in the executive, I would be like, all right, we do the ring thing, but we make the ring a sentient ring.
Yeah.
And it's voiced by Jack Black. There you go.
Tam,
easy.
It's actually kind of a good idea. Yes, I think I would go to the movie and see it just so I could scream every time Jack Black named a Fortnite reference. So
yeah.
Okay. I think the list of games that this has worked with,
also,
games.
Go ahead,
like, please.
Most video game kids movies these days are just Jumanji in various forms.
Oh yes.
Because like, isn't Minecraft is just? I read the synopsis. I was like, "This is ass Jumanji." That's what this is.
And that Jumanji one, that was a video game, because the updated Jumanji is like based on it being a video game, is an incredible movie. It's fantastic. It's such a good adventure movie. It rules. It's so good. And the idea that all these video game movies that are just aping that can't get it nearly as well done is not shocking.
It's a much smarter way, because you don't have to adapt the movie. You just say these characters fell into the game.
Yep.
Like, you don't have to adapt them into like making them work in real life. You just be like, oh no, these kids got sucked into isekai world version of Minecraft. What's going to happen now? And then it just does not have to make any sense at all. And you don't have to work hard to like reinterpret anything or anything like that.
It solves so many like annoying screenwriting problems they don't want to deal with. It's like some people are not going to know what any of this stuff is. How do we explain it? Well, the characters don't know, so someone has to say chicken jockey or whatever the fuck he says. I don't know.
Chicken jockey. I saw a clip of chicken jockey, and let me tell you, I've not played much Minecraft, but
the same sense. I
don't think whatever that thing was deserved the kind of pop off it was getting. I was like, oh my god, what's going on?
The list of games this has worked with they're all kind of big games, right? I think there is like probably a tier, like a below the fold list of games that don't get this bump. Do you think Gran Turismo got a bump in players? Because I don't remember hearing that when that movie came out, right?
No shot. That's not happening. No way.
Right. So, not that Gran Turismo isn't big, but that's what I mean. Like, even something that is big, but not, Fortnite, Minecraft, Witcher. It's just kind of a different thing. So I wonder if Hollywood's going to like look at all of these video game properties, and they are always looking for properties. So there's other reasons other than like the synergistic elements, whatever, that they want to go and make movies based on video games. But I wonder if like we're not going to see this repeated infinitely, but with Fortnite, clearly that'll be a big thing. Yes,
that'll be a thing. I'm interested to see what happens to the kind of like video game to movie to video game adaptation pipeline, because there is some potentially interesting that could happen. Like, if I was in like the Star Wars executive room, I'd be looking at how to adapt Jedi Fallen Order right now, or Respawn's games, and being like, this stuff works. Like, this is a better story than we have told in our actual Star Wars movies for a long time. So maybe we should think about that. And they're also like, because of the way the games are made these days, like they have a Cal Kestis ready to go. Like, he's the dude who plays him in the fucking in the game. There you go, easy. But I'm also interested to see whether people start doing kind of like video game adaptations that aren't just like kids shit, where they try and do like a, you know, teenage to adult kind of video game series, like a, I don't know, like a Grand Theft Auto style thing. Not Grand Theft. Rockstar will never let that happen. But, you know, like go back to the era where Max Payne gets another shot or something like that, you know. I don't think there's enough. Personally, I would love to see that. Like, I want to see like a Gears of War movie get made, but I just don't think the return on that is high enough because there's a lot of kids and their quality bar is on the floor. So you can just get away with any dog shit and they'll be like, yeah, yep, this is fantastic.
Yep, and honestly, I think they kind of just want trash because, you know, I don't know if you've seen the YouTube videos they watch. The trash is the top. Like, that's what they care about. The trashier it is, the better it is to them. So yeah.
The thing that we don't realize is the kids, the next generation kids, they're just gonna be all about slop.
Yes,
slop is gonna be like, there will be no quality bar for them. They're just gonna be like, give me the slop. I don't give a shit one bit. We'll see how that goes. Dead Rising, a Death Stranding movie. Maybe that will be the one.
Yeah, there you go. That'll save everything. All right, last handful of stories. It seems like more Activision classics are headed to Game Pass. This is from Jonas Mackey at Game Reactor. Microsoft hasn't been very quick in its efforts to bring Activision Blizzard's huge library to Game Pass, but now it seems that 3 new games are in the pipeline. Pure Xbox notes that the Microsoft store pages for Call of Duty World at War, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 now all have banners labeled included with Game Pass. Yeah, it's like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 should have been on there forever ago. What is happening? But yeah, they have taken their time, and I suppose part of that it's just like, oh, let's just, you know, make this a deliberate process. But I think personally, I was expecting they would just drop a ton of Activision games in huge batches onto Game Pass, and they haven't done that so far. So I guess better something than nothing at a certain point. Toys for Bob is interested in bringing back Banjo-Kazooie. This is from my Nintendo news. Let's see here. The Toys for Bob co-studio head and creative director Paul Yan spoke about it in an interview with YouTuber Canadian Guy A, saying that one company we'd like to work with is one we're already working with, Team Xbox. They've been a great partner, and they also have a very interesting roster of characters that Toys for Bob could have a lot of fun with. The Honey Bear is the first one that comes to mind. I think we can all agree Banjo's been hibernating long enough, right? Now,
no.
Okay, well, listen, I know you want to bury Banjo. I get that. But let me ask you first. Do you think that this is him teasing anything? Or do you think this is an indication that he's clearly not working on Banjo because he's saying it would be nice to work on Banjo?
Oh, I think they're fishing to try and get another project rolling.
Yeah. It's nice to work.
Yeah, it would be nice to really. I think they should switch to making like more mature games. I think they're done with kids' game. And they should rebrand as Toys for Robert and just make more, you know, adult-focused games.
I mean, it's a good joke, Tam. I'm still mad about it, though. I don't have to be happy about it. Shit. Instead of remaking Banjo, they can remake Conker's Bad Fur Day, or just like actual. Okay.
Go. Perfect.
There you go. I do wonder because they
imagine the big mighty Pooh rendered in Unreal Engine. That shit. You want to talk about slop? That's the only slop I'm interested in.
You know what that is. That's real shit.
That's the realest shit. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry, everybody. Yeah, I do wonder what they're working on because they were able to like leave Microsoft after the acquisition. They were part of Activision, and then immediately after that, basically, they were like, "Oh, we're going out on our own. We're buying our way out of Microsoft, and we're gonna." And then the first thing they announced is, and then we have a deal to make a game with Microsoft, and we still don't know what that is. There were rumors about what it was, but I can't pull those to mind right now. It was probably just like a new Spyro game or something like that. But whatever. I'll take
a new Spyro game. Give us a new Spyro game. I'll have that.
I like Spyro better than Crash Bandicoot personally, so yes, I'm with you.
I was more of a Crash Bandicoot person.
I think Crash Bandicoot's a cooler character. The man wears jorts. He's not a man, but he wears jorts like a man.
You can't say Crash Bandicoot was a cool character and immediately say he wears jorts.
Listen, he made jorts cool. All right, him and John Cena did so much work for the jorts community.
Oh man, this is a complete tangent, but I watched the Super Eye Patch Wolf's wrestling video yesterday. It's like 2.5 hours long. It's the entire story of like Dusty Rhodes all the way up to Cody Rhodes,
I would love to see that.
Ending with like Roman Reigns and the Shield. And I'm saying all this stuff. I haven't watched wrestling in 50 years.
Yeah.
I'm only 39 years old. I'm only 35 years old. But like by the end of that video, I was basically crying. I was like, "Oh my god, this is why wrestling is so good." I was like, "What am I talking about? I don't watch wrestling. Why am I getting excited about it?" But
you're
like,
right,
yeah, everyone should watch that video. It's incredible.
I love Dusty. Okay, I'm gonna watch that video. That sounds incredible. Finally, Amazon's Tomb Raider series could be dead, but mostly I just want to point out like what happened here was apparently they've had tens of millions of dollars spent on this project, and it could be dead because after spending all that money, they don't have a script. Tam, where does the money go?
What? Yeah, where is that? Where is that money going?
I would just pay someone to write a script personally.
I think there is a hard drive with thousands and thousands of terabytes worth of Lara Croft sketches. It's just different size boobs, different size asses. They spent millions on that. They were just like, we gave them money and they kept just drawing different kinds of boobs. It was unacceptable. And they're like, oh, here's a version with the PS1 polygonal boobs. Should we try this one? No. That's it. I don't know what they're doing with that money, man. Hit me up. I'll write you a script. I know how Lara crafts her stuff.
I guess Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Donald Glover were originally supposed to write something, but then after Mr. and Mrs. Smith,
Donald Glover as Lara Croft would be incredible.
I think that's always who I pictured in my head. Obviously, they apparently worked on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the Amazon reboot series, and then they had what he called a creative divorce. So maybe they've just paid them a lot to talk to each other, and then no script. I don't know. It seems like a bad way to do business, but what do I know? I've never made anything in Hollywood. All right, yeah, I didn't need a Tomb Raider movie series or anything like that. I'm good.
No, I went to the set of that last one, the one with what's her name in it,
Vikander.
Yeah, Alicia Vikander. Yeah. I went to the set. I did a set visit for that, and then I didn't watch the movie.
Have you ever seen the movie? Man. Have you ever seen it?
No, I've not seen the Alicia Vikander one. No, I watched the first Angelina Jolie one, and I was like, this is awful. Why am I watching this? And I was just like, even Angelina Jolie doesn't look good in the movie. She looks like weird. And I was like, I'm out of here, man. I'm done. I was a teenager, so I should have been like peak horny at that point. So
the horniness should have got you over all the other problems. Just did not.
I was like, this is a disgrace. You're telling me these are the people that made Soul Reaver? Fuck off.
All right, we got a poll question. Let's see here. This is from yesterday. Do you expect a Switch 2 price increase now? This was after the pause on tariffs, which was really just a reduction down to 10%, and then still 1,000,000% on China. So people are still skeptical, including 49% of respondents who said, yes, they still expect a price increase. 27% said they still expect a price increase, but a smaller one at this point. And then 24% say they no longer expect a price increase. I think, with that sort of sentiment in the air, Nintendo probably is aware of that, and it's like probably maybe still feels like they can get away with one. But I bet a lot of this is people being cynical and being like, well, we don't get nice things. This has ruined everything. So the price was already high. Why can't it be higher?
Here's my conspiracy theory. You ready for this?
I am always ready for conspiracy, Tam.
Here's what they're thinking. They're having a meeting right now, and they're like, what should we do about this price increase? And then someone stands up and says, don't worry about the price increase. Everyone is so pissed off at how expensive our games are. Like, that's the big issue right now. So what if we don't do anything to the price of the console, and we put out a statement saying, as Nintendo, your benevolent gaming rulers, we have decided to eat the costs of the tariffs and will not be changing the price of this console. And then everyone goes, oh my God, Nintendo, you're so good at this. And everyone forgets that they're still charging $80 for those fucking games. And they will like bait and switch everyone so badly. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. Because they also know that long term, the games they're gonna make their money.
Yes.
So again, correct. As always, eat the cost on the console, which is already pretty expensive. Act like you did everyone a favor. Keep the games the exact same price, and you'll make your money back in no time.
I mean, what if they even go one step further and like, we because of the tariffs, we do have to raise the price of physical games, but the digital games in the United States is something they're already doing. Some other countries will keep it at a lower price. If you want to go digital and give us more of a cut,
yep, maybe
we'll keep it at $80. Like, there's a lot of maneuvers here that they can make to try to.
I think the bait and switch is going to come easily. That's the smartest thing. That's what I would do if I was trying to bleed people dry of their money.
Yep. Yeah, and $90 Joy-Cons, which that's the kind of thing that could happen. They could raise the price on accessories, and that's where they try to make some of the money back because they have really high margins on those. So maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, new poll question that we will get to here in a second. But first, before we do that, Tamoor Hussain, what do you have going on? Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at tamoorh.com on Blue Sky. Please follow me on Instagram. I keep begging about it because it's one of the things where like notoriety helps in this current day and age. You know what I'm saying? So that would be great. Follow me. And I'm hopefully planning to stream this weekend, a little test stream. Still haven't figured out what I'm going to stream, but I've got all my graphics loaded up now. So hopefully this weekend I'll be playing a video game on the internet, twitch.tv/tamoorh. Prepare to give me your subs.
All right, new poll question. This is the one from last week. I said, what are we even doing here?
Marvel Rivals after this as well.
Oh yeah, we're gonna do Marvel Rivals, absolutely. All right, Tam, you got a poll question for me? What are you thinking? Should we just do jorts? Are they cool? Should we do Gex versus
Crash Bandicoot or Spyro?
Okay, I love it. That's what I was thinking. All right, Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, everybody. I want to know. We'll get to it. We'll get the results of that and talk about it on Game Breaking News here on the Power Block with Giant Bomb and GameSpot on Monday. Right? There's no reason Monday wouldn't be a show. We'll do that then. In the meantime, plenty more happening today from the Power Block. Marvel Rivals, as Tam mentioned, is up next. Then we have UPF, where we're going to supermarket together. It's going to be a return of Reichert's Market. We're all going to work for the Crown Prince of Kansas, Dan Reichert. At his grocery store, so
it's the Crown Prince of Cancer.
God, I hope not. Yeah, no, my God. Kansas. We'll get to all that here very soon. In the meantime, though, Tamoor Hussain, thank you so much for hanging out with me today and talking about video games, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I love doing it as always, and I'll see you guys for some rivaling.
See you all very soon.
Out? Can I stare at Emma Frost?
I think that's why we're playing, so I call Emma Frost. All right, bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.